Welcome to the stream. This is session number 2 of doing live stream animation reviews of people's stuff. And, well, I'm going to be looking at people's stuff, also working on my own stuff. First, I'll just show you some of the stuff I've been working on. These are kind of little creature loops, and I made a batch of them, like 9 of them I'm working on, and they're kind of inspired by like Fantastic Planet type surreal creatures mixed with an influence of Spirited Away and Paprika style cell shading, because I really like the kind of goopy stuff from Ponyo, and like since these are kind of sea creature-y things, they're just like really goopy, so I like shading things in that way. And I was live streaming doing some of the cell shading process, which is pretty tedious, doing it one frame at a time. I got this guy. It's like a lot of times just sort of start out drawing one frame. So I think like for this kind of fluid stuff, it's mostly straight ahead animation, but I will draw like one main frame, rough it in like this shape, and then maybe go over here and rough in a shape, and then just kind of connect the big shape parts, and then go over straight ahead, adding the other stuff like the eye and all that, the little pieces that break apart, and then do the coloring. And then for this one I just did a toon shader, and this one had a little more detailed cell shading. So there's a line layer for the clean line work, and then a flat color layer for the flats, and then a layer set to multiply for the shadows, and then another layer set to add for the highlights. So this is 4 layers of animation done separately. And then I just have a couple more. This one, which again is like another kind of abstract alien sea creature thingy. And then this one is kind of way different than the other stuff. It's more just flat colors and a little bit more like a comic book style. And I'm not going to cell shade that one. And then the final thing is this little eyeball, froggy eyeball stuff. And this one's almost done, but I still need to I'm going to do a final layer of cell shading over the green parts of the body to make it pop a little bit more. So that's kind of the protocol. But yeah, anyways, I'm doing some Discord stuff, and well, I'll show you. This is my Discord I started a couple weeks ago, where people can join the cult and share your art. And it's mostly just like animators and 2D stuff. Like this isn't animated, but it's a cool drawing. So this is like a work in progress area, or just share your art. And so it's like a cool little goopy creature. And we got these tubular stuff coming out of this guy. That's really cool. And some animators that I follow on Instagram and YouTube. This is Cooped My Pants. You should check that out. It's really cool. And yeah, like this person's making little kind of loopy creatures. Like this is totally stuff I like to do. These are like little Pokemon type alien things. And and then I share some of my work in progress stuff too. But yeah, so you can join the Discord and start sharing your stuff with other people. It's a supportive area, for anyone to share their stuff in progress. Like little exercises and like little fan art stuff. People testing out different softwares. Good place to share different things you're learning. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I was pretty stubborn about starting a Discord for a long time because I always got overwhelmed whenever I tried to go onto this website. And I also don't like the boop, little beeping sounds. So, but I'm kind of stubborn, but then I figured out it's okay. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. And then if you also really want to join the animation cult and be brainwashed into learning animation, I have a Patreon where I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff, but I have storyboards on there and behind the scenes stuff. In terms of learning animation, I have two main things right now, which is how to animate lightning PDF. This video is on YouTube that you can just watch, but we have a PDF file that you can download on here that has more information, and I'm going to be adding another longer video on Patreon of a full real-time lightning animation tutorial that will also go into animating electricity effects. And then the other big thing on here is a 2-hour fire animation course, which goes over animating different ways to animate fire, torches, candle flames, smoke, flames, how to animate rotoscope fire, and also it has a PDF, and you can also download 20 fire animation loops, which kind of is more for like VJs to use in their videos, but you can also use them in your own projects. So those are those things. And then so I'll just go ahead and go into looking at some animation stuff that people posted. Take a little drink of my tea. This is the most I've talked all day. Whew. All right. So yeah, this person, it was their first project. It was a music video they were commissioned to do for a band, which is super cool. And that's how I started learning animation, was doing music videos. I think it's a really great way to learn and experiment. Make it big screen. That's cool. Door. Yeah, these panels, this is such a cool idea because there's not necessarily a lot of animation happening. I mean, there's enough to tell the story, but you can with these panels you can kind of show more visual information in here condensed in a short amount of time. Because the thing about music videos is you're very pressed for time to tell a story. So any kind of tricks like this where you can add a little bit more background stuff and even encourage repeat viewings, because maybe people will miss it the first time, then they'll want to rewatch stuff. So you can see there's a lot of line boil stuff going on and some minimal animation where not a whole lot is moving, but it's still effective because you have the pieces still doing some stuff, and then you have lip sync here. I will say, I mean, of course I know being pressed on time, you have to prioritize where you put your energy. But I would say maybe for like this scene in particular, it just feels a little stiff. So like he could maybe move his head over a little bit, or even just have like a camera movement slowly going in or slowly going out. Just something to break up the kind of static feeling of the thing just being so close on the face. But this is, of course, a stylistic opinion. It's not like, but I think just to make it feel a little less static here, you could do something like just a short camera movement that wouldn't even require you to draw any more drawings. Oh yeah, am I gonna get copyright written? Maybe I will turn the volume off. Of course, we won't be able to see how things are synced up to the audio, but yeah, like I really like all this kind of sketchy stuff, especially since there isn't color. Well, except for like here, there's just like minimal color. But doing stuff like this where it keeps things feeling alive and like it's really handmade, like these cross hatches that are animated going over the face. So that's super cool. Then I really like this idea here, these silhouettes and everything. I do think something about this, like this is really strong visual. We have these really clear silhouettes, but as it goes over like this, it becomes a little more harder to read. So like I really like the idea here, but maybe could play around with different composition or spacing to make things read a little bit more clearly. But like this is a really cool idea. We get these more cool scribble stuff. Yeah, so like there's a lot of loops happening, and the thing about loops is sometimes it can feel like it's a cheap trick if it's not done well. I think you're using loops very well here because you're doing things with the compositions where you're changing things around, and like this here, this is one animation, and then it goes over to here, and this is the same, it looks like the exact same source animation, but you're changing things with the color and the negative shapes, or you invert the color to its negative and like flip it around, so it makes it feel like more is happening than what was drawn. And that's a intelligent way to use loops. And like here it's blurred. We get some more dynamic slashes. Yeah, like right here. So like here's another kind of thing where it's just like two drawings on the face line boil, but you have these sleeves that are on a cycle, and this helps it to feel more alive. So that's kind of something I would bring over to this beginning shot here. Like maybe the hair could be moving a little more just to make it feel a little more like things are moving. But yeah, like learning stuff through music videos is a great way to experiment with different techniques, because it's an opportunity to test out new styles that you might not necessarily be able to implement into other types of projects that would have a more strict visual cohesion. Like this, for instance, what's happening right now, super experimental, just showing things from your sketchbook, and this adds texture over this face right here. Like this scene, if it was just the face staring at us, then that wouldn't be super interesting, but because you have all this texture stuff going over it, it keeps our attention more. And I also wonder thematically how this ties into the video, because I see like some of these sketches almost looked like it was like some of the samurai characters, but a lot of them are figure drawings. So I know this is a way to get more visuals happening if you're pressed for time, but I could say like sticking with this idea of having the sketchbook stuff over the characters, you could maybe do a sketchbook that is all more related to the music video itself, just like riffing off of this idea, which I really like. Yeah, this is a really cool music video, and it does match the vibe of the song, but I'm turned the song off just in case for copyright reasons. We got this. I like stuff like this where, because you're doing so much that is just line animation, sometimes it can be visually straining to see a big white background on the screen, because when you're looking at something on the screen, the white floods your eyes with white light. So doing stuff like this too, where now the background is black but the line work is white, it gives the eyes a chance to rest from visual fatigue, and it also just looks cool, like we're in a dream state now. And I see you're doing stuff with the frames, like repeating the frames as if the light box were on. So like this is one drawing, but then with the opacity lower we have the previous frame. That's a cool technique. And there's some like film grainy stuff going on that looks like stars. We're going into the character's face, looping again. Nice. Yeah, that was sick. That was really cool. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say in terms of tips as far as like what I was saying throughout the thing, but just like really cool, well done, just experimenting with stuff, making use of loops in a way that didn't feel like we were just watching the same loop happen over and over. Like this, for instance. If this was a music video, I'm just looping this over and over, that would feel kind of cheap, but it might work more for a live visual. So yeah, really good job. 10 out of 10, A+, passing grade. Good job. I'm gonna put some music on now. That was by Flicky Clicky. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff that you make. Put on the Sonic the Hedgehog music. See if this is coming through. Sometimes it glitches up. Booby dooby doo. Oh, I gotta turn the boop boop off. Alright, now I'm gonna work on trying to finish up some of the cell shading. So I'll be posting the Discord link in the pinned comment after this video is up, but it expires like every 7 days. So for the cell shading here, I'm just taking this green part of the body, taking that color, and then go into this layer, put on add, and reduce the opacity to 50%. Now is the tedious process of going frame by frame and adding in these cell shades. So when I'm doing this kind of cell shading, I usually just keep the light box off and just kind of flick back and forth between frames and feel it out. I kind of hurt myself walking today. There was someone coming towards me walking their dog, and I try to avoid dog walkers because usually the dog wants to talk to me or the person wants to. And so I went off the sidewalk and started walking down a steep hill, but it had just snowed here recently, and the snow was kind of melty and slick, and then I fell on my back, got muddy. But trying to get my walks in every day. I was kind of slacking on that, but I really noticed not walking. There's a night and day difference between a walking day and a non-walking day in terms of my mood and energy level. It's just so important. Plus, like, it's not just, the obvious physical benefits, but you're mentally as well and creatively, because it gets blood flowing into your head. And often if you're having a creative block or you're stuck on a problem, it's not really beneficial to just keep to white knuckle it and just grind your teeth and try to force yourself to solve the problem. Walking, it allows you to get away from the problem and get a new fresh perspective. And during that kind of daydreaming state of walking, that kind of meditative, one foot after another, taking in new sights and sounds, often find that you'll suddenly, without even trying, think of a creative solution. This happens really often. Or it's just a good gestating period to let your thoughts kind of fester and think of new things that you can make. And then when you get back, you'll feel like you won't feel as guilty for just sitting down all day, because at least you had some walking time, man. We aren't meant to be purely sedentary creatures. So, and I've also thinking about dreaming a lot. Like, there's so many things that funnel into the creative process beyond just directly working on your craft, where it feels like, okay, I'm clearly drawing right now, so this is working on something creative. But if this was all I did and I was just outputting images, that's, that you can't, well, first of all, you can't physically do that. You have to sleep, you have to eat, etc. But there seems to be a need for a balance between output and input. You have to input other ideas into your head as well. Read things, experience new experiences, watch new movies, and look at other people's art. And you take time away from working on the thing you're working on. And all this information sloshes around in your head like a blender, and new stuff starts to come out. And on the other hand, if you only input things into your head and you don't make stuff, you're only consuming culture, but you aren't creating culture, that can lead to a kind of complacency or even a kind of depression. I think a lot of people are partly depressed because they feel like they aren't doing anything and they're just watching shows, and that can be a really depressing thing if you've ever spent a day where all you did was watch Netflix or something, or just watch TV or YouTube videos, or scrolled through social media posts. It's a slippery slope because it's addicting. It's designed to be as addicting as possible, and it hijacks the dopamine system where it feels like this is a rewarding thing to do, but it's it's a finite resource. Motivation and time, these are all finite resources. So there is definitely a balance to be had between consuming and creating. You don't want to go too far extreme in either direction. And my tendency is actually to go too far extreme in the output, creating, the kind of just working nonstop. And I have noticed that when I do take time to absorb other inputs, my work definitely benefits, and it's like I am able to look at things more objectively, even because like if you're just in one mode of mind, then it becomes very familiar and things are not really challenging yourself to the extent that you could be. So that's what I tell myself to make myself not feel guilty if I play a video game for a little bit. But I know this is an issue of feeling guilty taking breaks. Part of it too is like the stress of having to exist financially and pay bills and stuff. It's like when I'm working on something, part of that anxiety is soothed because I'm working on something. But if I'm just consuming stuff, well, then that doesn't help me pay rent, in theory. But in the grand scope of the creative life, it's all a vital part of the process. Even the non-creative aspects like sleeping or eating healthy or walking, all that stuff is super important. You don't have to Alright. I'm gonna check this, play this a few times, see that the highlights are tracking well. But I don't really get that much inspiration from dreams. I know some people can't even remember their dreams. Sometimes I will have a dream that has a weird visual in it, but most of my dreams aren't really that surreal. They're mostly just socially stressful or confusing, where I say something wrong or I don't understand what someone's saying. Almost all my dreams are just about being unsure how to act in certain social situations or in big groups, or like just repeating dreams I've had over and over in slightly different ways. But I did read a few books on sleeping and dreaming a few years ago, and I'm sure the research has evolved and changed even since then because it's always growing so rapidly. But as far as we know, at least according to what I can remember, is we don't really know why we dream, or we understand. Well, okay, we understand why dreaming happens in the sense that it happens during the REM stage, rapid eye movement, and during this stage, your prefrontal cortex basically goes offline, which explains probably why in your dreams you're more impulsive. Things are not necessarily logical, it's just purely emotional logic. And so it's like dreams are something your brain does naturally, but in terms of what advantage does dreaming itself serve, that's where it becomes much more based on personal opinion. And some people's opinions are that it's where we can like let out harmful. This is more like a old school Freudian type of thing, which Sigmund Freud, of course, this was the infancy of psychoanalysis, and he didn't have the tools or even the education of neuroscience back then. So his stuff was very much his own personal biases and opinions. But kind of the more Freudian aspect is that dreams are where the unconscious mind is able to vent, and so it's like this steam pressure that's letting out steam, and that's what the advantage of dreaming is, so that you don't act out crazy stuff in reality. Now, of course, the individual variety of dreams are so widespread, a lot of people don't have, any kind of dream where they would behave immorally. They might just be weirder or stuff like that. And then another kind of belief about dreams, and this is also why they think animals, like dogs and stuff, dream, is that they're it's like for learning things. Well, okay, so this actually isn't about dreaming, but your sleeping itself, it is about consolidating memories and cleansing your brain of neurotoxins. And like if you go without sleep, we know the first stuff that gets impaired is your ability to learn and to remember things, and then it's your impulse control and emotional regulation. So all that stuff, we can just know naturally that, okay, if this stuff is impaired when you don't sleep, then we know that sleeping is necessary for your memory, emotional regulation, learning, all that stuff. So yeah, but in terms of like the actual dreams themselves, we don't really know, why dreams happen. It's just like a hallucinatory state that is a natural byproduct of the REM's process. But again, this is based on stuff I read like 6 years ago, so I'm sure there's a lot more stuff out about it by now. Don't we dream to process what we have seen, thought over the day? Like whenever I dream, I know I've dreamed it. Even if it's abstract, I know which parts came from where. Yeah, I also, well, yeah, like sometimes that does happen to me where I'll, it's like the Alice in Wonderland, or not Alice in Wonderland, but what was it, Alice in Wonderland? What's the one where they see the Wizard of Oz? Is that? Oh, it's the Wizard of Oz, of course, obviously. Yeah, on the Wizard of Oz, that whole universe is like based on stuff Dorothy has seen in her real life, and then at the end of the movie, she sees like, a lot of characters and stuff that was in the Wizard of Oz place. So, of course, all the information that's in your brain is what your dreams are going to be drawing from. Like, you can't create new stuff out of nothing. It's all just information that's in your head. So obviously there's also probably a recency kind of bias where stuff that's happened more recently is more on your mind. But of course, like whatever you're thinking about throughout the day is going to be more relevant. I have a lot of never mind. I have a lot of stressful dreams about certain stuff. It's kind of weird, but never mind. Whee! But yeah, this loop was kind of inspired by like the parade scene stuff in Paprika, which is another movie about dreams by Satoshi Kon. I think it's probably my least favorite movie of his in terms of like a movie, but it has some of the coolest visuals. But I feel like the characters aren't as interesting as his other stuff, like Tokyo Godfathers. And I think Perfect Blue is probably my favorite movie by him. But it's definitely heavy content warnings. It's definitely an R-rated movie. But it feels like it's one of those movies where it feels like it kind of reminds me of Cowboy Bebop, where even if you're not into anime or animation in general, there's a kind of live action quality to it that most people can appreciate, or like become immersed in. Like the fact that it's animated is not a distraction. It has like realistic dialogue and acting. That's always impressive to me, where when animated characters don't feel like too exaggerated in terms of their acting or personalities. Of course, all movies are exaggerated, and like no one that really talks like how people talk in movies. They're tightly written scripts. But I also like stuff where it's written in a way that doesn't feel like it's a tightly written script, where the dialogue feels more where it has all the ums and uhs and people interrupting. I mean, that's just like just basic tips for realistic dialogue, but also where they say stuff that maybe has nothing to do with pushing the plot forward. It's just to add texture, like people hanging out and just saying random stuff, in that kind of, adds a little bit more texture to their characterization. There's one YouTuber, Shermie's Forest, I just recently discovered, and they joined the Discord. So if you're watching, yeah, hello, and also I really like your stuff. And Shermie's Forest, the characters, everything is like that, where it's like just almost like a stream of consciousness conversation, and it's really funny. Probably like a close thing I could compare it to would be like the dialogue in home movies. Yeah, so I would like to make more narrative type stories. I need help making dialogue though, because I don't know how to. Whenever I try to write edgy characters, I just put in like the S word everywhere, and it just sounds like an 8th grader trying to sound cool. So yeah, but granted, since I know it's cringe, at least I think it would be worse if I didn't know it was cringe. Because that's part of any kind of artistic process, is developing your taste and being able to know when things aren't working. Alright, let's see how this is playing out right now. To go over and fill in the colors later. I've been reading a book about brains right now, and just learning about how neurons branch like actual branches on a tree. Every neuron has like all these thousands of branches reaching out trying to find other neurons, and an individual neuron behaves a lot like an individual ant, where no individual neuron really knows what the heck is going on, just like an ant doesn't really know anything. But when you get a high enough number of ants together, you have this superorganism that is able to do things that are far beyond the capacity of any individual ant. Like a colony of ants can build a bridge, or like they have like just all these abilities, and that's how neurons are, where you get 87 billion neurons together, and then you have a brain that's able to talk about neurons. It's like, it's just very, it's kind of trippy and eerie, just being able to talk about, your brain is literally talking about itself, but the individual components of the brain, the individual neurons that make up the brain, that simulate this thing called consciousness, no individual rogue neuron knows what the heck is going on. It's just following this code of branching out and trying to connect its electrical signals to other neurons. It's it's eerie, but also amazing. And this sort of fractaling, branching out process is seen all over nature. From branches to seashells to like viruses to slime particles like amoebas. So I've been thinking a lot about this for like how to animate something like that, but like make it kind of tell a story, but still be abstract and kind of like you're in a dream state. Something about streaming is it forces you to stay on the single task at hand. Sometimes when I'm not streaming, I'm more likely to be distracted or tempted to check my email or check social media, but I can't do that while I'm on stream. So it's a good opportunity to hyper focus on completing a single task and documenting that single task on the internet, and I can go back later and see what I've done, and also other people can see it. So yeah, you might consider streaming or just recording parts of your process. If not for anyone else to see, just as a kind of diary for yourself. But I do like live streaming because it doesn't take up space on my computer. Whereas if I was recording several hours, that could be gigabytes worth of stuff. Okay, I see the spacing is kind of stopping suddenly here. I need to make it more consistent. But yeah, if you're working on any animation or any drawings or illustrations or paintings, let me know, or just tell me about it, or just post it in the Discord and post it in the art critique section so I can share it and talk about it next Sunday. So I'm enjoying seeing what people are making. But yeah, I've been mostly doing these live streams, kind of doing like just cell shading loops. Some stuff of doing rough animation, but mostly doing either cleanup or cell shading because I can talk and do that at the same time. Whereas if I'm doing rough animation or storyboard, it's a little harder. But once I start some other kind of bigger projects, I want to start live streaming those too. Like short film ideas. I do have a kind of idea of this. It's just really very still abstract, but like a tower that never stops rising. And it kind of harkens back to the neuron thing I was talking about before, where it's this process, but the thing that's doing the process is not aware of itself or why it's doing it. So like a brain growing, and with these neurons that are just branching out and connecting and forming new structures, kind of similar to this tower that never stops growing and rising. And the builders of this tower don't know why they're building the tower, but it's kind of like a singular ant colony type of vision, and it'll be kind of like a cult too, because I want to explore like how cults work and how certain individuals could get out of a sort of high control group where all of your sense of self is tied up to this kind of hive mind where you have to be part of this superstructure. And I want to have interesting, weird stuff happening with the tower itself, like some like roller coaster type thing, tendrils sprawling out of the tower, which can be used as a set piece for these sort of roller coaster battles where the characters will have some kind of vehicles that are designed for these coasters. I was thinking maybe the roller coasters are like built out of material that magnets could ride on. So the sort of vehicles would be like these magnet propelled type of vehicles, like kind of look like hover cars or hover motorcycle type things, but the bottoms are these little magnetic things that push against the roller coaster, and then the back of it will have the like jet propelled engine force to move them forward, and have some kind of, I know everyone's doing like the Mad Max stuff, but I want to have some kind of Road Warrior type vibes in there as well. But like I was saying before, when I try to make anything that's remotely edgy, it's just extremely cringy. So unless you did it in like a self-aware way, but yeah, so maybe it'll, I don't know. So I feel like I've been talking about this specific idea for a long time, and it's kind of sad like the years go by and I'm not able to execute on it because of the pressures of survival. So it's one of those things where you just have to get disciplined and dedicate an hour a day to your personal project, or maybe like one day a week where it's like, this is your personal project day. But it's hard when you do art for a living because it takes up so much energy. So when you do have downtime, don't necessarily want to spend that downtime just making more drawings. Wow, you can see my eyes are cut off. Don't know how to do this. Oh, but talking, I guess, well, I was gonna say it's kind of self-indulgent because I'm just talking about stuff I've been working on, but isn't that what most videos are? I guess, and just kind of repeating the thing about doing personal stuff. Yesterday I did kind of work on music, which I've been neglecting for a long time. not so much working on it as curating or kind of putting together a song listing for a little album. These are mostly songs I did between like 2016 and 2019. They've just been sitting on my hard drive collecting dust. So I was like, well, I need to figure out how to batch these together in a way that makes sense. And I think the album will be called Dream Machine, which again is, I know I've been talking about dreams a lot this stream. It's just been on my mind, probably because of that, because I was thinking about that last night. Back in the ancient times, dreams held a lot of weight in terms of being interpreted as prophetic visions. In a way, it's kind of like, well, I don't want to get demonetized even talking about like hallucinogenic type substances, but the dreams are like a naturally induced hallucinatory state where you don't have to ingest any kind of chemical. It's a non-invasive mind trip, and everyone can dream. The barrier to entry is very low, so it makes sense that these dreams that everybody could be having, you have enough people having dreams, eventually you're going to have some dreams that may become true or are interpreted as prophecies or some type of visionary thing that holds a lot of meaning to a specific culture. And then that dream gets passed along through oral tradition and then eventually written down, becomes an immortal dream that can last for thousands of years. And it was just this state in someone's mind. What's up, Chrisley Mahana? My Hannah? Thank you. I love Adventure Time. My favorite character is LSP. Something about dreams is the transition between scenes. That always surprises me, how you can be in a dream and then you're in like your grandma's house, then suddenly like you blink and you're 5 years old at the park on a swing set, and you don't question it. Like, you don't question the illogical continuity of events. It's because it's like when you're dreaming, it's more about the specific present emotional state you're in. You're not thinking logically about stuff. Then when you do start to question it, or you notice, wait a second, I'm looking in the mirror and my face looks like it's like I have a third eye on my forehead. Sometimes when stuff like that happens and I realize I'm dreaming, then I enter the lucid dream state. And I always get excited because when I'm lucid dreaming, I always want to fly. So I'll run outside as fast as I can. It's like, okay, I gotta fly before I wake up. And right as I'm about to fly, I guess because I'm excited, I wake up. So I would really like to learn how to stay calm and control my lucid dreams more. And it's just it's just so bizarre that you can be dreaming and not know you're dreaming, because it's your brain is tricking your brain is tricking itself that this is real. That's so strange to me, because I can think a thought in my head right now that I know isn't real, and I can envision it and see it in my mind's eye and know that this is my imagination. But again, it's probably just because your frontal lobes basically go offline when you're dreaming. You aren't able to analyze it, so you just accept the reality that is being presented. Oh my glob. I love it. My favorite character is Marceline because I also love vampires. Oh, Marceline's awesome. And she plays the bass. Yeah, she's an awesome character. I mean, yeah, like, I wouldn't actually say LSP is my favorite character. I mean, there's not a ton of depth to that character. It's kind of like Kevin from The Office. Like, I wouldn't say Kevin is my favorite character, but he's like guaranteed to give me a laugh. But like, yeah, like favorite character on Adventure Time. I mean, it kind of changed. Like first it would probably just be a boring answer like Finn or Jake, maybe Jake the dog. As the series went on, honestly, like probably like the Ice King ended up being one of the most interesting characters to me. And I just finished Fiona and Cake, so that was also really cool. It's a little more rated TV-14, so they're able to explore the topics with a little more viciousness. Alright, let's see how this looks right now. Everything going together. Little goopy frog eye thingamabob. I might actually, well, I'm gonna save and then I might come back, finish this one later. Add in the flats to the more comic book style creature on the other one. I love how they connect Adventure Time and Fiona and Cake. Yes, same here. I was really curious how they could even pull that off, or how they would pull it off, but because of the way that universe is set up, they were able to do it in a way where you really cared about all the characters, even the ones you didn't necessarily know as much about. Alright, this one I think I can do a little trick here. Color this really fast. I'll select all the frames, click enter, automatically fill it in. And that's that. Get this one filled in. Been watching SpongeBob right now, going through season 2. I love the first 3 seasons of that show. When I was a kid, I always related a lot to SpongeBob, especially since I was homeschooled, and then I went to a private school in 7th grade. and I just didn't have social skills very good. It was like there was like kind of a dress code, not as crazy as other private schools in terms of like a dress code, but one of the things was boys couldn't wear shorts and some other stuff. So I showed up on my first day wearing shorts and wearing a Pokemon shirt, and I had my sister's pink and purple backpack, which I didn't realize that would be used as a target to be made fun of for, because purple is my favorite color. So yeah, and then I just didn't know certain things, like that you were supposed to sit at your desk. And during a science class, they gave us a little homework assignment to work on during class, and I was like, I just stretched out my back. I was like, I'm not really feeling this desk. And then I laid down in the middle of the floor on my stomach and just started working on my homework, kicking my feet. And then people started laughing, and I didn't know they were laughing at me. And then the teacher saw and said that you can't just lay in the middle of the floor. You have to sit at the seat. But being homeschooled, that was a totally foreign concept to me. There's a lot of these tiny little culture shocks. And I also so it was like a pretty small school, like maybe 50-ish people between 7th grade and 12th grade. And it was all part of like the same building. So the high school was part of it too. So I was around high schoolers. And for some reason, I went up to all the jocks, all the 12th grade dudes, and told them that I was a yellow belt in karate. And that if I ever saw them picking on anyone, I would beat them up. And then they proceeded to push me to the ground and laugh at my face. So, yeah. It's just like, why? I don't know why I started talking about that. I don't know where I went on to. Oh, SpongeBob. Yeah, because I related to SpongeBob being kind of naive and a little bit dumb, because I am, in fact, an idiot. However, being older now, I also relate more to Squidward. Probably more Squidward now than any of the characters. And I think that's pretty common for a lot of people I've noticed, especially artists and adults, like trying to function. But I also like how, so I didn't notice as much when I was a kid. I thought Squidward was just kind of mean, but he does care for SpongeBob. He just can't, he's annoying to him, but he's not like necessarily a truly antagonistic character. If anything, SpongeBob's more antagonistic towards Squidward, but not through any malicious intent, just by virtue of being like a hyperactive puppy. And I think Patrick's probably my favorite character. Why was I homeschooled? Probably a variety of reasons. A lot of reasons. Like, I don't know. But I did eventually so I went to private school in 7th grade. Homeschooled again in 8th grade because of the bullying. And then in 9th grade, I went back to that private school. And actually had friends in 9th grade, so it wasn't as bad. But the school was still kind of nuts, and also they kept telling me I had to cut my hair, and I didn't want to. So, and I also just wanted to learn like about art and stuff, and there wasn't any art program. But eventually, 10th through 12th grade, I did go to public school, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. I will say I'm glad I was homeschooled during the first few years, because I had other homeschool friends, so we were able to play outside a bunch and you know, but I would have hated being homeschooled through high school for sure. But yeah, during high school I had like actual art classes. I learned more about drawing. Had an art teacher that was very open to doing more surreal type stuff, so he gave me a lot of, you know, leeway on the art assignments. Let me kind of just make whatever, as long as it was like sort of loosely related to the topic. And I made a couple art friends there. But yeah, and then I didn't go to college, so my social life has pretty much dwindled, because, you know, it's hard to keep in contact with people. It's harder to make friends as an adult, because everyone has their own lives and families and stuff. And also, like, when you're in a school setting, you are forced to be around people. You have no choice in the matter. When you're an adult, you have a lot more choice over who you're around, or even if you're around anyone. Since I work from home, I'm not consistently around anyone. So it's like less opportunities to actually establish friendships and relationships. I am, however, an extreme introvert. So it doesn't, like, I can go days and days and weeks without really seeing or talking to people, and I don't really feel lonely. However, I do also miss like having a friend base and all that kind of stuff. When you're in high school, you know, getting together, playing some Mario Party, watching The Office, stuff like that. I'm nostalgic for that kind of thing. They don't have a fill tool to automate the parts you're filling up. Well, this is a fill tool. To automate it, well, so I'll show you what I usually do. So there's that. So I was just kind of doing it the dumb way, but like, I can click here, fill it up, and that same spot I hit, I will select all my frames, then click enter, and it'll fill in the spot that I hit. So that's a way to automate it. But it only works if it's like somewhere consistently in one spot. But this is still faster than coloring and animate, I think. I'm not really sure how Toon Boom would work, but I mean, overall, coloring in the flats is still the fastest process compared to like doing the roughs or the cleanup. Stuff like that takes a billion times longer. I don't really mind this too much. It's mostly just mindless. We'll give it a little save. I can't imagine that this almost don't exist where I live. You are not an idiot. I've seen those on the internet. Wow. I am on the internet. Boy, I did not go to college. I had a scholarship to go to community college for like 2 years for free. I had 10 years to use it. And one day, me and my stoner friend, well, we were gonna sign up and go to community college together. And when we were on the website, it asked me for my address. And I didn't know my address. And then I decided that this process of signing up was too hard, too confusing. So if I couldn't even figure out the sign up process, you know, that probably shows I wasn't too dedicated to actually go. So, yeah, I just had a weird career path. Or like, from the time I was 18 to 24 probably, I was mostly working for my best friend's dad, doing fitness equipment installs. We build treadmills, install like just different stuff for gyms, hospitals, residential things like that. But it was very, very part-time. Like sometimes it could be months without actually working on anything. Sometimes it could be 2 weeks straight of working on stuff. But it was a very part-time thing. So obviously, needless to say, I was living at home. And I basically used the money I made with him to buy my first computer and to buy a little bamboo tablet, drawing tablet, and to buy a Flipbook Studio. It's an animation program. So that's how I was able to buy my very beginning setup for doing animation. Of course, before that period, I was just animating on Flipbooks, making Flipbook music videos. But then once I got my animation software, I started kind of trying to figure out how I can actually do stuff with this. And I saw a music video contest for the Flaming Lips on this website called Gennaro. And that was like my incentive to try to make something. And it wasn't a thing where like you pitch a treatment and then they hire you. It was a straight up contest where you had to animate a full thing, submit it, and then maybe they'll pick it. And there was a cash prize. And well, I got a text from I think that's his name. Now I sound like an idiot, but the lead singer of the Flaming Lips sent me a text, or not a text, but a email asking me for my phone number. And I told him I don't have a phone. And he said, that's crazy. And then I never heard from him again. And then a couple weeks later, the website reached out to me and said that they picked my video to be their official video. And the song is called Look, the Sun is Rising. It was a 4 or 5 minute music video. And that was the first time I had any kind of animation thing or art thing that I actually got paid for. And that clicked a thing off in my head where I was like, oh, you can actually make money off of this potentially. And so then I spent the next 2 years submitting to more animation contests and didn't win most of them. I had two other projects that came from submitting of someone that hired me, but it was definitely not a lot. So that's when I started to realize that doing contests is not an economically viable way to survive if I ever want to move out of the basement. So then I was like, well, wait a second. Instead of just submitting a contest, I need to make a show reel and start submitting the show reel to potential clients. And then from there, if they want to hire me, then I won't have wasted all this time making a full music video that they didn't pay me for. It'll be, oh, they pay you first and then you make the thing. So I was just kind of a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of trial and error, trying to figure out a sustainable way to do this animation thing. And so then I did a music video for Moon Duo. I reached out to them on Facebook, asked them if they were interested in any kind of trippy psychedelic animations like this, and sent them the Flaming Lips one. And it just so happened that they were looking for someone. And so then I did a couple of videos for them. And then they had connections with a producer on Adult Swim who showed the music video on the late at night on Liquid television or whatever the thing is. And from there the Adult Swim producer guy reached out to me and said he had a guy who works on Incubus and Red Hot Chili Peppers who's looking for live visuals. And then that's how I got into the live visual world, where I didn't even know about that before, about making loops for musicians. I just thought it was about music videos. And so that's kind of been my trajectory. It was like none of it was planned. It was just learning one little thing at a time and then reaching out to people and kind of getting lucky with certain connections. But you have to also consider the response rate. Like I've sent out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails and to bands and to studios, and probably 99% of them never got back to me. So that is a piece of advice, is if you're starting out and you're trying to find something, you just can't give up. You can't get discouraged if you send out 10 emails and don't hear anything back. That's kind of the standard. It's nothing personal. People are busy. Also, don't send people your life biography. Just send a very short 1-paragraph email with like a connection to your show reel or your portfolio. And if you have more stuff to say, you can figure that out in the follow-up if they get back to you. But like, no one wants to have to read through a ton of text, and that also kind of sends a signal out that you aren't professional if you get into too many personal details or things like that. Do you have any advice for not repeating yourself with your abstract animations? Not repeating yourself. Not repeating yourself. I don't know what that means. Like, not making the same loop again by accident? Because I kind of do that sometimes. Well, I kind of repurpose certain ideas, but change them around a bit. But also, like, you can never draw the same line perfectly twice. So, sort of that thing about there's no new ideas under the sun. I think that's not true. I think there's nothing but new ideas under the sun, because we're imperfect, flawed biological machines that can never make a perfect duplicate of anything. Now, of course, that doesn't mean certain things aren't derivative of other things, but everything, if you look at it in terms of every molecule, every little bit of detail, then everything is always changing. Just gotta find new ways to put your spin on it. This specific loop, so this is actually from a music video I never put it in. It was for the Paula Jan Zilker, and I never used this loop. I just drew the line work and forgot to color it. That was in 2015. So this loop I'm working on right now has technically been in the making for 10 years. I haven't been working on it for 10 years, but I made it 10 years ago, and now I'm coloring it. I can definitely see the Chad Van Galen influence in this one, who was one of my primary inspirations when I was starting out. Which animation of yours are you most proud of? Probably different things for different reasons. I think one of the more recent ones we did, 2022, City of Venom. It's like a rubber hose cartoon with Eddie Brock, Venom, and Dr. Octopus. And I think that one turned out cool. And it's like, tells more of a storyline. But other ones like personal projects, I think probably Diving in the Sea of Light. It's a longer one, it's like 6 or 7 minutes, but it has a lot of different art styles in it, and I worked on it for about a year. And it has some parts that were drawn with colored pencil and crayons on note cards. Then it has parts where I filmed food coloring going into water, and then I rotoscoped things over the food coloring. And then it has parts with goopy shaded sea creatures towards the end, which was the first time I learned how to do cell shaded animation. So that particular project was kind of like a launch board for learning a bunch of different styles of animation. And that one also actually won an award. I submitted that one to film festivals. I haven't submitted to film festivals since then, I guess. I don't really care about that whole world. Not to sound like a jerk or anything, but I don't know, I just don't think about it. But that one actually did win a thing. I can't. It's won something. I don't know, but and they actually asked me to show up for the award ceremony, and I didn't. But another one I kind of like was Jan Zilker, Paula Leda, Jan Zilker. 'Cause that one kind of has a little bit of a story too, about a guy who is really anxious about going on his first date, and this girl tries to kiss him, and it's kind of a little bit of a biographical to when I had a girlfriend in high school, my first girlfriend, and she wasn't like super pressuring me or anything, but she definitely wanted to hold hands before I was ready. And I know that sounds kind of pathetic, but like, I don't know, I was just nervous. And then her friends were asking why I never kissed her and all this stuff, because we were dating for 2 months and we never kissed, and I just felt weird. Like, I didn't know how to act, I didn't know how to process. So that video is kind of like about all those anxieties with dating. And then I guess another project I kind of liked was Moon Duo Cold Fear, because that one is really weird and it has like Blade Runner style backgrounds, and it's a kind of dystopian type of world with creepy creatures and these kind of monsters that are surviving off of human beings. I guess kind of like the Matrix, but not really. And then another one I kind of liked was, what was it? Oh, well, kind of. I don't know. Okay, yeah. Well, okay. So like the Weird Fishes, or no, that's a Radiohead song. Hold on. Little Fishes by the Claypool Linen Delirium. Because that one also kind of tells like a dystopian type of story of this authoritarian world where this brain controls all the fishes, and the fishes are eating these little humanoid characters, and the humans are carrying coal to the brain. They're like slaves to the brain, and then the fishes are like the overlord type characters. And there's like all these propaganda posters around the world showing like everyone being happy and to build up to the brain, but the reality of the world is starkly contrasted from the posters in the world. And so I liked kind of like trying to show like a dystopian type of world. But yeah. But these are all music videos type things. Haven't really worked on anything with dialogue, which is something I want to explore more. I've done some lip sync and stuff where characters sing things, but oh, I've been streaming for 80 minutes. Alright. Well, in that case, I think I'm done. I'll finish up this stuff on my own time. But thank you a lot for watching. You can join the Discord via the link. You can join the Patreon to get exclusive animation tutorials and PDFs. And you can have a nice day, and I'll see you later. Animator, peace out. Thank you for